You're watching Goal.com's mid-season review. We're focusing on the biggest clubs in Europe. Up for discussion is Tottenham Hotspur. Greg, team you follow closely, professionally. Honest assessment of the season so far and AVB?
Too early to judge AVB all the season. You've got to remember that Harry Redknapp was sacked after Spurs finished fourth, so Villas-Boas has got to finish in the top four. That's the priority, and Spurs are absolutely desperate to get that Champions League cash because they've got a new stadium to build. It's been okay, but they'll be fighting for fourth, but they've got a long way to go. They've got a lot of improvements to make, which is why the January transfer window is going to be really important. And it'll be interesting to see how Villas-Boas and Levy manage to negotiate through the January transfer window, because Levy's essentially a director of football, and it didn't work very well in the summer. They missed out on some key targets.
Stamina seems to be an issue. Stat, I'm going to pinch from you. If the game's finished after 80 minutes, they'd be top of the league right now.
Yeah, that's true. And one thing I think you could attribute that particular failing to, perhaps, is Andre Villas-Boas on the sidelines. Tactically, he's not been able to see games through. Maybe there's a little bit of negativity in the type of coaching that he does. When he sees a game with a 1-0 lead, he thinks by replacing a striker with a midfield player that's the best way to see games through. But unfortunately, that invites pressure onto the Spurs team. And they're not quite defensively resolute to see games through. As I suppose you could testify, the game against Everton a few weeks ago was probably the biggest example of that.
I think as a player, you know, when a manager takes off one of your strikers and brings on an extra midfielder, automatically your mindset is then to take a step back. We'll settle for what we've got. We'll try and see out the victory, get those 3 points, and we'll come off. And all that does is just get you deeper and deeper towards your own penalty area. And as Pete said, invites that pressure. And that's ultimately cost him. I think his substitutions have been too defensive. I think in the summer he did do some good business. I think Dembele's a really good player in midfield. Dempsey had a slow start to the season, but is now starting to find his feet. So I think he did do some good business. He probably needs to find a more creative type player in that central area. Van der Vaart left for pastures new. Moutinho has been talked about coming in, but that's an area I think he would like to try and strengthen. Out wide they've got great pace and quality in Bale and Lennon, and in the summer he's going to have a fight trying to keep hold of Gareth Bale, because there's no doubt no shortage of suitors.
Talk about Bale with Greg in a minute, but he's no mug. You don't get to manage a Premier League side like Tottenham without having something, but he does show some naivety in his tactics.
I think so, and although he made his name at Porto and he had that fantastic season where they won the treble, I still think that Villas-Boas has a little bit of proving himself to do. He's not quite reached that territory occupied by the likes of Jose Mourinho and Alex Ferguson as one of the top managers. So I think he does try to improve himself on a game-by-game basis and almost display his aptitude for management at this level by making these decisions game by game. And he does get it wrong. The derby, obviously, they went down to 10 men very, very quickly. And he seemed to surrender that game right on half-time. For me, I think Spurs' biggest problem was missing out on Moutinho. I think had they signed Moutinho from Porto in the summer, I think that could have been the best transfer made anywhere in Europe during the summer transfer window. I rate Moutinho as possibly the best midfield player in Europe, and that would have been a really, really big coup and an upgrade on Luka Modric.
And he still wants Moutinho, and he was banging the Moutinho drum all summer to the chairman, but the deal fell through right at the last minute. And you're talking about the tactics there, and the man management issue is quite big for Villas-Boas, because you've got these players in the dressing room who are used to Harry Redknapp, giving them so much freedom to go out and do what they want to do. Even training was just very relaxed, and his man management style, the arm around the shoulder, you're the best player in the world. And they've got this, Villas-Boas is a bit of a robot, and he's very meticulous and very specific, and it's PowerPoint presentations. And the contrast with Redknapp's taken a bit of getting used to for the players.
I think the best example of that is Michael Dawson. He almost made his opinion before he arrived at the football club about Michael Dawson, was almost trying to sell him in the summer. It didn't happen, and yet when he's got back into the team, he's proved to be, I suppose, probably the best defender, and results improved when he was playing.
Pete, last word. We can talk about who Tottenham are going to sign, who they're not going to sign, but keeping hold of Gareth Bale is critical for them.
Well, sooner or later, Gareth Bale is going to move on, because he's beginning to prove himself as not only one of the best players in the Premier League, but I think he's going to become one of the best players in Europe very, very quickly. And sooner or later, Bale is going to be off for pastures new. And Spurs do traditionally have, they have that tendency to sell their bigger players to bigger clubs. And I think Bale could be the latest in that long line of talent to depart White Hart Lane.
Pete, I think he's already one of the best players in Europe, and B, I'm pretty sure that he will be playing for Real Madrid by the start of next season. I think Spurs reached a partnership with Real Madrid when they sold Luka Modric last summer, and I think a deal is very much in the pipeline, certainly with Bale's agents and Madrid, and maybe even with Spurs. I think there's an option there. There's talks.
Story you're following very closely, so keep reading goal.com for all the latest news and analysis on that. Gareth Bale, Tottenham and all matters football.